I was just mentioning, that we see there's a global scarcity of energy. So whatever we do, one thing is for sure, we have to save electricity, but we have to save it in a smart way. If you look at the costs of electricity, there are peak demands. And this is what is expensive, because in these peak demands, the expensive gas comes into the market. So what we have to do is flatten the curve and avoid the peak demands. We will propose a mandatory target for reducing electricity use at peak hours, and we will work very closely with the member states to achieve this. The second measure, we will propose a cap on the revenues of companies that are producing electricity with low costs. The low-carbon energy sources are making, in these times, because they have low costs, but they are high prices on the market, enormous revenues. Revenues they never calculated with, revenues they never dreamt of, and revenues they cannot reinvest as far. These revenues do not reflect their production costs. So it is now time for the consumers to benefit from the low costs of low-carbon sources, like, for example, the renewables. We will propose to rechannel these unexpected profits. We channel them to the member states so that the member states can support the vulnerable households and vulnerable companies. The third measure is that the same goes, of course, for the unexpected profits of fossil fuel companies. Oil and gas companies have also made massive profits, and therefore we will propose that there is a solidarity contribution for fossil fuel companies, because all energy sources must help to overcome this crisis. Member states should invest these revenues to, as I said, support vulnerable households and vulnerable companies, but also to invest them in clean, homegrown energy sources, as the renewables are, for example. The fourth point is addressing the energy utility companies that must be supported to be able to cope with the volatility of the markets. And here it is a problem of securing future markets, and for that liquidity is needed. These companies are currently being requested to provide unexpected large amounts of funds now, which threatens their capacity not only to trade, but also the stability of the future markets. It is a liquidity problem. Therefore, we will help to facilitate the liquidity support by member states for energy companies. We will update our temporary framework and enable thus state guarantees to be delivered rapidly. The fifth and the last point, we aim at lowering the costs of gas. And therefore, we will propose a price cap on Russian gas. Of course, the objective is here very clear. We all know that our sanctions are deeply grinding into the Russian economy with a heavy negative impact. But Putin is partially buffering through fossil fuel revenues. So here the objective is we must cut Russia's revenues, which Putin uses to finance his atrocious war in Ukraine. And now our work of the last month really pays off. Because at the beginning of the war, if you looked at the imported gas, 40% of it was Russian gas since a long time. Today we're down to 9% only. So these are the 5 measures we will discuss with the member states at the informal council, Energy Minister Council on Friday. These are tough times, and they are not over soon. But I'm deeply convinced that if we show the solidarity, the unity, and we have the determination for that, we have the economic strength, we have the political will, that we shall overcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The President will now take a few questions. Please let me know if you are interested. Markus, you can walk over to the mic. Oh, yeah, you have it there. Good.
Seems to work. If I may, a question in German. Is it okay? actually three.
Drei Fragen.
Meine erste Frage ist, das klingt ja alles sehr kompliziert und dauert normalerweise lange. Jetzt wollen die Leute relativ schnell niedrigere Energierechnungen haben. Was ist Ihr sozusagen Ziel? Wann soll das umgesetzt sein? Die zweite ist die Frage des Preises. Wo wollen Sie beim Strompreis wieder hin? Und was soll die Obergrenze für den russischen Gaspreis sein? Und meine dritte Frage wäre, der russische Präsident hat heute gesagt, wenn es eine Gaspreis-Cap gibt, dann gibt es kein Gas mehr. Macht Ihnen das keine Sorgen? Danke.
Wir müssen so schnell wie möglich den Effekt haben dieser Maßnahmen. Und deshalb haben wir eine Rechtsbasis genommen, die genau für Krisenmomente zuständig ist und die genau ermöglicht, dass wir sehr schnell die vorgeschlagenen Maßnahmen umsetzen können. Das ist europäisches Recht, das es den Mitgliedstaaten ermöglicht, sehr schnell zu handeln. Uns ist wichtig, dass wir den Preis insgesamt von Gas insofern beeinflussen, dass er nicht weiter in schwindelnde Höhen geht. Nochmal, ich weise darauf hin, dass wir einen Energiemangel überall auf der Welt haben und deshalb der Druck auf den Energiemärkten enorm hoch ist. Deshalb wollen wir ja auch die übermäßigen Gewinne zum Teil der Energieunternehmen abschöpfen und sie den Bürgerinnen und Bürgern, die diese Anpassung nicht leisten können, zur Verfügung stellen, aber auch Unternehmen, die zum Beispiel Schwierigkeiten jetzt haben, mit den hohen Energiekosten zu schützen. Deshalb nochmal, das Ziel ist, Einfluss zu nehmen auf den Elektrizitätspreis, wohl wissend, dass er auch durch die globalen Umstände beeinflusst wird. Die Obergrenze für das russische Gas wird sicherlich diskutiert im Detail dann auf dem Energieministerrat. Und wir müssen diese Themen insgesamt mit all den dazugehörigen Zahlen im Energieministerrat zunächst einmal durchdiskutieren. Dann kommt der Rechtsvorschlag der Kommission nächste Woche Dienstag.
Thank you. Second question, Francesca. Go ahead.
It's fine. Mr. President, if the introduction of a price cap on Russian gas has become urgent, when will you really introduce it, considering that some member states apparently are still skeptical, and the price could be 100 euros acceptable, or you are thinking about something different? Thank you.
Das erinnert mich daran, dass ich Ihre dritte Frage nicht beantwortet habe, weil sie mir einfach entfallen ist. I answer first of all a bit in German, and then of course, no, and then I will answer your question again. It's about the Russian price cap and how fast we are able to move. Wir sehen seit Monaten, dass Putin den Gasmarkt manipuliert, und deshalb ist es auch keine Überraschung, dass er angekündigt hat, dass er das russische Gas ganz abstellen wird. Denn er hat inzwischen in 13 Mitgliedstaaten bereits vollständig oder teilweise die Gaslieferungen eingestellt. Und wir sehen, dass er lieber das Gas abfackelt, als es vertragsgemäß nach Europa zu liefern. Das heißt, wir sollten uns nicht beeindrucken lassen durch diese Ankündigungen. Sie wären sowieso früher oder später gekommen. Und das ist der Grund, warum wir in den letzten Monaten so hart gearbeitet haben, um uns unabhängig zu machen vom russischen Gas. Now, sorry. The price cap on Russian gas can go really fast, and that is important. We have worked very hard over the last month to make sure that we have the solidarity net that is important for the member states, that we can make sure that the gas flows where it's needed most. And this work was necessary also to have other suppliers to provide us with necessary gas, so that we cannot be blackmailed anymore by Putin's or Russia's announcement what gas is concerned. You have seen that over the last month. He always tried to blackmail us. As I've just said, 13 member states have been partially or totally cut off the Russian gas already. So we don't give anything anymore on these announcements by Russia, because we know they are blackmailing us. The best thing is to fortify yourselves and go towards other suppliers and have solidarity.
So, one more question, please. Rob.
You've mentioned a price cap on Russian gas, but why not having a price cap on other gas? LNG, for example, maybe a flexible kind of cap, but this gas is also very expensive.
Yeah, that is a very important point. Indeed, this is on the table, and we're looking at that too. And here, again, excuse me if I repeat myself, but it's important. Overall, energy globally is scarce. And of course, LNG gas can be rerouted in their ships' deliveries to different regions of the world. So what we are looking at now is that we stay competitive for the LNG suppliers, but we make sure that the prices we pay are not extraordinarily high, but in a decent range. And therefore, we're looking at that too. This is on the table.
Thank you very much. That concludes our press point.
All right. Thank you.
Stay tuned for the college readout.